Alright, so here's what I'm going to be using as my underhood lights for Bruce. I got a pair of Cyclone LEDs from KC Hilites and the diffused pattern. And then I also got a set of Nebula Series sub-flush mounts for the Cyclones. What these allow you to do is these allow you to take your Cyclones and mount them so they're sub-flush. This ring up here actually allows you to mount them to softer materials such as your underhood liner or your wheel well liner if you want to do rock lights or something like that, which are pretty cool. I also have some Tesa tape. And this is the exterior Tesa tape. The exterior Tesa tape is good for when you're trying to make your wiring harnesses and make everything look factory. This is what they use in the actual production lines, so link in the description to that as well. Alright, continuing on with our project day. We have the lights that we're going to be putting in. We're going to put them in about here and about the same side on the other side. The reason we're going to be doing that is underneath this hood liner, there's actually quite a bit of space that we can mount stuff to. We're going to be routing our cables down to our battery and then to a switch. Hopefully that's going to be right about here. As you can see, went through, Tesa taped everything from the 4TLR retrofit that I did last night / this morning. Mounted the relays and the capacitor link. The capacitor link is here. Mounted my relays right here to the grounding stud, as well as grounded my capacitor link here. And so everything looks nice, clean, and stock, which is the way I want it to look. I want it to look like nothing was ever done to the truck, but yet the truck has upgrades. Alright, just pulled down the hood liner. If you're curious as to what the ZR2 hood looks like underneath, this is what it looks like. Wasn't too hard to pull the hood liner, as long as you have some like trim removal tools. They have like those Christmas tree pop rivet things that honestly you just need to get your tool underneath there, give it a nice hard yank, and the little rivets will pop right on out. Alright, so I actually washed my underhood liner. It was getting pretty muddy and pretty dirty, so some of the splotchiness that you might be seeing is actually the water evaporating out of the hood liner. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to actually make sure that these were centered, that these lights are going to be centered. So I took these rings out, and then I also measured on the hood itself, and I started from it would be this is kind of like the front of the truck, so this would be one of the hood pins. And I started from here and I measured over actually on the hood, and I wanted to come over 5 inches, down 6 inches. And I used 2 sets of squares, so that way I can actually take this, flip it over to the other side, measure it, and then that way it's going to be symmetrical. And there's actually a pin right here in the center, so if you wanted to measure from here, you can just measure a straight line out and then over. I chose to come over here just because it was easier to actually do my measurements this way. So I'm going to mark this out, and then I'm going to start cutting it. So now I've got the Nebula mounts actually bolted to the hood liner. As you can see, I'm going to use the actual mount itself to trace out my hole so I get that hole nice and straight. Well, not exactly straight, but very circular. Alright, now we've got the Nebula series mounts actually cut into the hood liner. As you can see, I've got a little bit of extra fluff here around the edges. That will actually go away. I'm going to use some permanent marker to kind of make that black. And then over here, you can see how it actually fits in there. I don't have the center bolt here done and mounted in yet, but you can kind of see how that's going to fit in there. You're not going to actually see the edge of that headliner, or excuse me, the hood liner at all. All right, and you can see the stain, the mud stain didn't come out of my hood liner, but oh well. For the wiring, I had a leftover wiring harness from a different project. Actually, it was from the fog lamps that I had. I didn't end up using the wiring harness itself, so I went back through and I'm modifying it a little bit. I'm going to put my own connectors on the end here. So that way, I don't have to make a wiring harness myself. I just modify one that I already had. I'm actually going to go in through the back of the hood here, across, and then up to the light, so that way it's nice and clean. Everything is wrapped in Tesa tape, and this is the Tesa exterior tape. So yeah, everything's all wired up, at least behind the hood liner. You can see here that they actually have heat vents, so that way as these LEDs heat up, they can actually vent. It's not active cooling, but it is passive. Wrapped everything up, all the connections and everything, in the Tesa tape and the external harness tape, and gave myself enough room here to make sure that I can get everything routed correctly. The only reason I have this coming out towards the front is because the way that the KC Hilites logo ends up, I wanted it to be legible, so I had to turn it a couple of notches so that way everything is legible. Jumping ahead a little bit, I got the hood liner back up and mounted, and it looks really good. I really am happy with the way this turned out, how it's all flush mounted, everything's recessed, so when I close the hood, nothing's gonna slam into it. Also, here's what I was mentioning about earlier, where the KC logo is, it's kind of hard to focus, but the KC logo is actually reading all the way upright. And here we'll give it a test. I got all of the battery hookups done, but I don't have the switch. The switch is just kind of this extra hanging bit. Like I said before, I used the harness for the fog lamps that I got earlier. So here's just during the daytime how this sucker works. So it illuminates the engine bay really well. I can't wait to try this out tonight, see how it all looks, and we'll check back in tonight. At night, this kit is really lighting up this engine bay. I'm really liking what's going on here. I can see everything in the engine bay very clearly. It gets a lot of light actually way deep down into the engine, so if in the future I have any air compressors back in that corner, I'm going to be able to work on them at night if I need to. And over here I've got a lot of light on my battery as well, so if I need to jumpstart friends or family at night, I can get to it, see it very clearly, at least on my end. And down over here, included with the kit, is the switch plate. The switch plate allows you to mount this switch and actually gives you access to the adjustment on the headlights as well without ever having to take this apart in the future. So this kit from CopperStar USA is awesome. It's the Nebula series. I chose to get two because I wanted two with my truck. And yeah, this kit is awesome, and I can't wait to see what we're going to do with Bruce here in the future. And see you next time.